Hello, Shadowrunning tubers, and welcome to a new Let's Play with me, BlueAnkylo. So, for those of you watching these sort of as they come out, I figured I've taken such a long break lately that I need to post some more videos, and I'm kind of excited about playing this game. It's not a brand new game, but it's a little bit more up to date than some of the stuff I've been playing recently, so hopefully that helps. So essentially, if you're not familiar with the game, Shadowrun Returns, I think it's been out for a few years. There's 3, I think, games in the modern Shadowrun series nowadays. We may get to some more depending on how things go after this one. But we're playing in the future. It's pretty cyberpunk. It's going to be, combat will be like tactical RPG stuff, so you'll be taking cover, taking turns, shooting enemies with stuff. It's definitely got some fantasy stuff, so like, as much as there'll be swords and machine guns and stuff like that, there's also magic and summons. And we'll get into more of that later, but if you're not familiar with the Shadowrun universe, I'll try to take it slow and introduce you a little bit. I don't know, moderately experienced with the world. It's actually based on another tabletop game, kind of like D&D, different setting and so on. But same kind of basic premise, I guess you could say. It sort of comes from using dice and role-playing with other people at a table. So we're gonna start on a new game. This is just gonna be the default campaign that comes with Shadowrun Returns. You can download like modules from other people's creations, which is kind of cool. So anyway, our story is called The Dead Man's Switch. And let's see, is there anything I need to know? Well, we can cover the basic intro. So, in the urban sprawl of the Seattle Metroplex, the search for a mysterious killer sets you on a trail that leads from the darkest slums to the city's most powerful megacorps. Yeah, it's the future, right? Megacorps have taken over. You will need to tread carefully, enlist the aid of other runners, and master powerful forces of technology and magic in order to emerge from the shadows unscathed. So, yeah, we'll learn as we go if you're not familiar. It should be okay. So we're going to play it on hard. I did a little bit of a test sort of intro on my own just to make sure I understood how the game worked and test out the difficulty levels. I found hard not that hard, and very hard is probably a step too much. I haven't actually beat the game before. I haven't really played it a whole lot. So I think hard for the first time for me will probably fit pretty well. We shouldn't need to do a whole lot of reloading or anything unless I make some really dumb mistakes, so we should be okay with this. So, we get to do character generation, everyone's favorite. I will play as... well, there's some options. Male and female, I don't believe, change a whole lot. Like most modern RPGs, there tends not to be a whole lot of statistical differences, so we'll go with guys, just because, you know, I'm a guy and a male voice makes sense for a male. So we got 5 races. We've got humans, who are your default... well, I mean, we're still on Earth, right? Most people are still humans. And that's kind of the social norm, so you'll get along with other humans better in general. There are elves who are, I think they call them metahumans, right? These ones are particularly nice looking, and people tend to like them even more. So if you're comparing stats here, they get, humans get karma, which is like experience points in this game. And then their maximum stats are all very average. Elves get charisma because they look amazing, apparently, or something. And they actually have better stats overall, like for maximums. Quickness and charisma are a little bit better than humans, and they get that default charisma bonus. But I don't want to be an elf, so we're not going to be an elf. There are dwarves, who are kind of like your stereotypical fantasy dwarf. They're shorter and, I don't know, they can be bulky. They get +1 willpower, so they actually make pretty good mages and various mage-type classes because they've got good innate resistance. Again, they've got better maximum stats than humans, more body, more strength, more willpower. Now that doesn't mean they start with more, that just means they can hit those maximums. There's orcs, who are the fastest breeding race, second only to humans in population. They're intimidating, and they've got pointed ears and teeth or tusks. So these guys tend to be pretty tough. They're kind of your default bruiser. Got really high body max, lots of strength, little bit of penalty to charisma and intelligence. They're not particularly nice looking or necessarily smart, although they can be pretty smart. They're just not stereotypically smart. And then of course the mighty troll, the largest of the metahumans. People tend to not like them a lot because they think they're dumb, but they're not really dumb. They just, well, I guess the smartest troll is not as smart as the smartest human, if you want to think of it in those terms. But the average, I think, for most of those stats in the way the world works, I think, is around 3 for most stats, if you're just an average person with reasonable strength, reasonable intelligence. So plenty of trolls are intelligence 3 or 2 or 4. It's just they have a cap at 6. Now, compared to the orc, they're just a more extreme version in most of my opinion. They get even higher body, even higher strength, even more of a charisma penalty and an intelligence penalty. And they even get a small quickness penalty, so that's how it goes. Anyway, I'm not going to be playing any of the crazy metahumans. I'm just going to go with human, normal human, because I actually need that karma. And I'm not planning my class as a physical bruiser. So, like, if I wanted to punch things or slice things up or shoot things, I might use one of those. If I wanted to use magic, I might use either an elf or a dwarf. If I was really focusing on, like, charisma skills to be a smooth talker and get more rewards and some easy conversation options, probably go with elf. But, you know, it's standard kind of stuff. So then there's classes. They call them archetypes in this. I believe if you're playing the tabletop version, these are a lot more fluid. Like, a mage type can still learn how to shoot guns and stuff. But in, and I think we can do that in this game as well, but this does set your sort of default skills. So street samurais are, I suppose, your standard sort of warrior class. I believe in this universe they tend to have cyber editions. They use cyberware to improve their attributes, like, you know, cybernetic arms or eyes or dermal plating underneath their skin to make them stronger. So that's kind of your standard street samurai stuff. Just because they say samurai doesn't mean they use katana necessarily. They could use melee combat, they could use ranged combat. It's your sort of default. You can read more about them underneath if you'd like. We've got mages, who are your, well, just a mage, I guess. The idea is in the future here of Earth, we're in sort of cyberpunk future, but there's been sort of an awakening and magic now exists and there's magical creatures. So some humans and other metahumans turned out to be magical in nature, which is kind of cool. We've got deckers, who are your hackers, basically. We use cyberdecks to hack into the Matrix. The Matrix is a fancy word for the internet in the future. And they can do some they're not terribly combat specialized. In fact, the way I understand it, in this game at least, there's very little a decker specifically can do in combat. They have to branch out into other skills if they want to be useful. So decking is sort of a side thing for hacking into the Matrix. We've got shamans or shamans, who are a lot like a mage. You'll notice a mage uses willpower for casting, and a shaman, I'll go with shaman, uses charisma for casting. So shamans, I don't know, I'm gonna waffle on that a few times. They tend to make pretty good faces or frontmen for your group because they're good at talking to people, and they can use that for casting. So they can cast spells and they can summon spirits, which is pretty cool. They're actually, this was kind of like my second choice if I was gonna pick. I'm not gonna go with a shaman, but they're pretty cool. We've got riggers. Now this is the one we're actually gonna go with, so I'll save them for last. And physical adepts. So this is another class. It's kind of got a lot in common with the street samurai. They are your fighters, except instead of using like cybernetics to become more powerful, they use like magical powers to hone their physical abilities. So they'll get special attacks and powers for, like, they're using their magic stat, their willpower stat, and that's enhancing their attributes. So they become stronger and faster using magic, whereas a street samurai becomes stronger and faster using, you know, machinery. So what we're gonna go with actually, for reals, is a rigger. And rigger is... They've got some things in common with the decker, because they're using computers and machinery. They are not necessarily cyber enhanced themselves, but they basically control drones. That's the real cool thing about these guys. So we're going to be summoning. We're going to have drones following us around that we use to fight our enemies and shoot stuff down and maybe heal us and kinds of cool stuff. Now, because the key attribute for riggers is intelligence, which is the same as decking, we're actually going to sort of do a multi-class eventually. So we're going to be primarily a rigger with a little bit of side into decking, so we can handle the matrix stuff ourselves. And we're not going to focus on decking, but we'll have some. So let's get to it. I think I have a character that I'd like to use portrait-wise here. There's quite a few options. I'm gonna go... I think it's, this dude with the cool shades. I mean, we're just a human. We don't really look anything special. We're just sort of a normal dude. We like to wear sunglasses in the dark because let's just pretend we've got some sort of monitor, sort of comlink type thing inside our shades. We don't really look at the physical world a whole lot because we're not really interested in combat. We're like hackers. We like playing with our robots, and we like playing in the Matrix. And we're not terribly interested in running out there with guns blazing and magical spells winging at us. We don't want to get hit, you know. So that's our basic plan for a character. Karma, as you can read here, is how you improve your attributes and stuff. It costs, when you're raising it from like 4 to 5, will cost you 5 points. From 2 to 3 will cost you 3 points. So I think that's a little bit different than how it's done in tabletop, on character creation at least. But you know, the video games simplify a lot of that stuff. So I will spend a little bit of time here going through the various attributes. There's not a ton, but you know, this is a good point to kind of show you guys what we'll be dealing with in the world and how combat's going to work for different characters. So your body is kind of like your constitution in standard D&D type stuff. Resistance to physical damage, chance to reduce damage from incoming attacks, and you get more HP. And if you look at this bar, because we're human, our cap will be 9. It even tells you here. If you were a different species or metahuman, different, whatever they call them, different race, something, you could have higher bodies. So obviously trolls can get the absolute maximum for HP and resistance. But keeping in mind, like, the karma cost does keep going up. So going from level 16 to 17 for a troll, only the troll, still costs them 17 karma. So if a troll wants to get all the way to the top, it's going to take them a ton of experience points. It might be worth it, but that 17 points, if you split it up into other things, you know, you could get from 5 to 6, from 5 to 6, and 5 to 6 in 3 different skills, basically for the same cost. Here. So quickness, another primary attribute, used to calculate chance to hit in ranged combat, and reduce the chance to hit by enemy physical attacks. So this is your standard gun using kind of skill. More quickness means you're going to shoot more accurately, and in general, you'll avoid more attacks. I think physical is both melee and ranged, just bullets and swords and stuff. So probably, like, for me, I'll want to put a couple points in body. I won't be pumping it up a whole lot. And similarly, I want to put a couple points in quickness just so that I don't take a lot of damage, but I'm not really planning on shooting a whole lot. Ranged combat is a skill underneath an attribute. So the way it works in Shadowrun is you can't raise a skill higher than the attribute is at. So right now we're at level 3 for quickness. We could not raise our ranged combat to 4 without raising quickness to 4 first. That's just the way the system works. It's pretty simple. And then ranged combat, just chance to hit with guns. And I believe at some levels there'll be special abilities like an extra weapon slot. We'll talk about this once we get into the game, but like, I will need to get ranged combat to level 3, even if I don't plan to use a gun ever, simply for this ability. There's probably some other ones. Overwatch, if you're familiar with XCOM, is, I think, quite similar, but again, I'm not going to be worried about guns really, so someone else will have to show that off. And I think, so, I don't know how you want to, I don't know the terminology for all this, but you've got attributes and skills. I'm gonna call these sub skills for the sake of the LP. If you need a 3 in quickness to get a 3 in ranged combat, you will also need a 3 in ranged combat to get a 3 in one of your sub skills underneath it. So right now we can only learn maximum of level 1 for pistol, and that also gives you a special ability. If we want to take level 2 in pistols, we need a level 2 in ranged combat, etc, etc. And the combat, like the gun skills, tend to get you lots of cool stuff. Reloading for free, special chance to do more, chance to hit increase for 3 turns, or I don't know how long. You have to see it in game to see exactly how it works. But my point is, there's quite a lot of cool abilities as you raise this up higher. And if you wanted to be a pistol expert, you definitely want to get that up pretty high. Similarly, we got submachine guns, shotguns, and rifles. From what I understand, in this game, rifles are your best all-rounders, just for good damage at good range, and shotguns are your best for up close. Submachine guns maybe still good, but maybe for someone who doesn't specialize as much, just sort of give them a gun that shoots a lot of bullets. I'm not sure if pistols have great skill, because the base pistol damage is much lower than rifles and shotguns. Dodge is something we'll want to take a few points in. It's not a sub-skill of ranged combat, it's just a skill under quickness. And this dodge will just give us straight up chance to avoid damage, basically. So we start with 0, but we're going to want to have some. Well, I don't know how I'm going to do it just yet, but the first point is quite cheap. Like, it's just 1 point to get to level 1, and that does help you avoid getting shot. So, hey, not bad. The next attribute is strength. We're not going to be worrying about strength much. Physical damage or throwing, or sorry, melee or throwing weapons. How far you can throw grenades. I'm not going to be worrying about that personally. And it's got close combat as a skill, and then melee and unarmed as sub-skills, and throwing weapons as a skill. I think, similarly, if you were playing as an orc or a troll, you would want to pump this up, assuming you wanted to be an unarmed fighter. I think, generally speaking, melee fighting tends to be better than unarmed, but, I mean, if you want to be a monk, you can do it. It's just, swords are pretty awesome. And then throwing weapons, again, I'm not sure, like, grenades are pretty cool, but, like, I'm not sure if this game has, like, shuriken and throwing knives and stuff, but, seriously, grenades are what you want to throw for the most part. Okay, so now we've come to sort of the important stuff for our class. Intelligence will be used for decking and rigging, so hacking and drones, and it's a chance to hit with computer programs or drones. So when we are using our drones to shoot stuff, our intelligence is applying our chance to hit. When we're hacking and doing stuff with programs, intelligence again, chance to hit. The matrix is complicated, so it's going to take a few episodes before we get to any of that. It also reduces the chance to be hit by enemy programs in the matrix, so while we're doing decking stuff, having a high intelligence is very useful. Biotech is a skill. So this improves how much, I think it's the recipient, not sure if it's the recipient or the user of the medkit. Either way, we'll want a couple points in it, because at level 2, you can see enemies' HP, which is pretty handy, actually, when you're trying to decide what to do with your turn. I'm not sure if I'll take it much higher than 2. We'll restore a little bit more from medkits, which is nice, but again, I don't want my character in combat a whole lot. We've got decking, so this is our hacking skill. It's not Wi-Fi or anything, so we have to actually find whatever they call them, a data port of some sort, and we actually have to move to it and plug in. So in combat, it's kind of a pain. You have to move somewhere, plug into a console or something, and then your character is now kind of in the matrix doing stuff, while the rest of the crew is actually fighting in real time in heat space. So it's a little bit funky, but we'll definitely take a few points in it, and it'll as we get to a higher level, we'll work our way up. It unlocks better. These are your decks that you use, and the better your deck that you equip, sort of the more programs and they call them ESPs. They're extra. We'll talk about it later, but like the more stuff you can bring into the matrix with you, basically. And I think they might increase your chance to hit and stuff in the matrix. There's also a special ability you'll get if you want to use it in fighting. This is like the only thing that deckers specifically get that they can use in normal combat, is they can mark a target so someone else can shoot it easier. They just hack it a little bit, and suddenly it's easier to shoot that person. And that's kind of all we get. So ESP control sub-skill for decking, we're really not going to worry about this one very much. ESPs are kind of like summons, except they only work in the Matrix. And while this will make them stronger, we're really not prioritizing decking, so we'll equip the better decks, but we might only put a couple points into ESP. Here's our thing, drone control. So as drone control goes up, we'll get better drones, for one. So you have to buy them, and they won't all be unlocked at the beginning. So getting up to level 5 right now doesn't really necessarily help us, because we can't just buy Class A drones. We couldn't afford them, they're not available, etc, etc. We will definitely want to have 2 drones fairly quickly, and just generally having more skill in here, I think, helps your drones out. I know for sure every point in drone combat is very good. So, because drone combat is a sub-skill of drone control, we'll still want to get a pretty high drone controls, even if we don't have Class A drones, because having drone armor is pretty awesome. So that's kind of how that works. Now we get into sort of the magical stuff. So willpower is sort of your magic stat, your magic attribute in this game. There is I think in tabletop there is like a magic stat, but for this game it's just willpower. We'll probably want to increase ours a little bit, similar to body, because it will be our chance, reduces the chance to be hit with enemy magical attacks. We don't want to be killed by magic, so we'll want a few points in willpower. Spell casting is for mages and shamans, and key casting is for the physical adepts. You know, if you want to be a key caster, you can get all kinds of cool stuff. I haven't played as a mage, so I'm not sure exactly like how this all works. But they get more spell books, kind of like equipment slots from ranged combat and stuff like that. Charisma, the final physical attribute. If you want to be a shaman, you definitely need lots of charisma to have more spirits. For me, I might pick a couple points in charisma. You get etiquettes, which are like social skills, every 2 points. So I might try to get to 4, maybe to 6 at some point, just for the etiquette, so I'm better at talking and conversing. But I'm not going to be worried about this one too much. And then again, if you're a shaman, you're going to want some spirit summoning for that, and spirit control, kind of similar to drone control and all that, I think. And then conjuring, I think again is shaman oriented. I don't know a whole lot about shamans. So anyway, let's spend our points. I spend enough time here. So we are gonna go straight up with, I'm not gonna put any points in decking yet. I happen to know from my tests that you can't even do anything with decking for the first couple runs. So having like, you know, I could put, you know, a few points in and I could buy one of those, but actually, no, I can't even buy this for quite a few turns. So even if I put points into decking, I can't buy the decking equipment to use, and there's nowhere to deck, so it's kind of a waste of a start. But what we do want is better drone control. So more accuracy there. I can't quite put, yeah, I'll probably go up to this, with the plan of buying this soon once we start the game, so that I can get more dodge on the drones themselves. And we'll work our way up. I really want to get 2 drones quickly. That will cost me intelligence 4, which I'll get, you know, fairly soon. Like, this is all sort of my priority. I want to get at least level 4 drone control and drone combat with intelligence. And then I'll put a couple points into decking and biotech. And at some point, I'll put some more points into physical stuff. I will want to get this pretty soon. Let's just put 1 point into dodge. It's cheap at level 1, and that'll help me, you know, not die so easily. Alright, so that's our character creation. Spent a little bit of time. We also get to choose an etiquette. So as your charisma goes up, we might get more of these. So corporate would give us sort of knowledge about how corporations work. If you're familiar with the Shadowrun universe, in the future, megacorps have kind of taken over the world. Like, local government isn't really very strong, and basically just huge multinational megacorps sort of run everything. Like, it's pretty bleak if you're into that kind of future-y bad. It's not good, basically. Security is more like you're familiar with the security companies for corporations. So this is talking about, like, I'm used to working guard details and stuff like that. You're familiar with how security details work. Gangs are also very common in the future, of course. It's just, you know, things are bleak in the future. So this would give you information on maybe some contacts in the gang world, sort of how they extort money and who to talk to. Socialite is like high society stuff. Shadowrunning is like what we're doing. So knowing about Shadowrunning might be what I pick just for role-playing sake. This is knowledge of how runs are organized and set up, I think. So we'll probably go with that. Street knowledge is more like you grew up in the street, you know, sort of where to go, who's safe. And academic is like, you know, university junk. I don't know. I'm just making it up as I go. Let's pick Shadowrunner and just roll with it. And because this is my channel, we will go with BlueAnkylo. Alright, let's play through the intro quick. Well, or I could just end the episode and we'll... You know what? I'll tell you that. We'll call this first episode just sort of the introduction and character creation. Next episode, we will get to our first sort of tutorial run, and you guys can see how the game actually plays in practice. So I'll read this next episode. So thanks for watching. Hope you're interested in the game. I was hoping to get a little bit further than that, but I wanted to go over stats and stuff, which is always fun. So if you enjoy the series, stay around, and there should be another episode up shortly. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and have a great day.